Hey, I hope everybody's doing well out there today. Listen, for those of you that know me, you know I like to put out some very specific videos about military transition from time to time, but it's been a bit since I've done that. So what I want to do over the next 2 or 3 weeks is put out a series of videos about transitioning, and I'm going to include about 8 key topics. Now, those topics are going to include when to leave the military, where to leave the military, saving for that transition, prep work for transition, networking, informational interviews, leveraging social media, and finally, reintegration, or what I like to call life after the military. Some of you may have a hard time clicking through each one of these videos and you don't want to find them on LinkedIn, and hey, if that's the case, I'll drop the link to my YouTube channel in the comments below, and you can watch the entire thing in one big video on my YouTube channel. Hey, let's get to it. Hey, listen, transition tip number 1 is a real simple one, and it's this: know when to leave the military. Somebody told me one time, they said, Charlie, you'll know when it's the right time to leave the military. How horribly ambiguous is that? But you know what? The person that told me that, 100% accurate. See, I didn't hate the military when I left, but I was ready for a new challenge. You'll know when that time comes. Now, when you start getting the sense that it's coming, you get to request retirement if you are indeed retiring from the military. And when you request your retirement date, request it for the 30th of September the next year. Let me explain why. You can roll over 60 days of annual leave each year. So if you request your retirement date for 30 September of the next year, you can roll over 60 and earn another 30. Man, that's 90 days of leave the military will give you. Now, on top of that, you get permissive TAD or TDY. CONUS is 20 days, OCONUS is 30 days. So add that to your terminal leave. Man, you can leave with as much as 120 days of active duty pay while you're just out there job searching. Now remember, while you're on permissive TAD or TDY, you can't work for that 30 days. But while you're on terminal leave, you can be working full-time for somebody else. So listen, plan accordingly when you leave so that you and your family are taken care of. Hey, hope this helps you out. Semper Fidelis, talk to you around the bend. Well, hello again. For those of you that have been following me the last couple of days, you know we're starting a series on transition, and I'm going to be doing about 7 or 8 videos on transition tips that are just going to kind of build along the way. Now, part 1 of the series was covering when to leave the military, or the timing of your departure. Now, part 2 today is going to be about where to leave the military. Now listen, right now I need you to get up from wherever you're at, carry the phone with you, go into the bathroom, look in the mirror, and have a hard talk with yourself. And I need you to ask yourself this one question. Ask yourself, what is your priority after transition? Is it career and paycheck, or is it going back home and living next to your mama? You got to figure that out right now. Now, if you're from a big town like Nashville, Tennessee, Dallas, Texas, Little Rock, Arkansas, hey, you might be able to have both. You might be able to have a career and a good paycheck and live next to mama. If you're from Greasy Corner, Arkansas, you probably cannot have both. So you need to answer that question right now, because it's a very important one. Now listen, I hear a lot of spouses complain about how terrible it is for their husbands now that they've gotten out of the military. Let me give you a little anecdote. Susie posts on Facebook that her husband's got 3 degrees in physics and he was a rocket scientist in the Air Force, but now he's only making 30 grand a year. After asking Susie a couple of questions, I have determined that Susie lives in Greasy Corner, Arkansas with her husband because they want to be close to her mama. Listen, Susie, you can't have both. Now that goes for all you Susies out there, or all you Jimmies out there that think that you can follow your career and live next to mama. Probably not going to happen. So figure out which one's your priority now. Hey, and chase that rainbow, but just understand it's your choice. It's nobody else's. Now listen, once you make that choice, use the military and get your last set of PCS orders somewhere close to where you want to transition. East Coast, West Coast, Hawaii. And those PCS orders will signal the start of your transition. Hey, good luck, my friends. Semper Fidelis, talk to you around the bend. Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to part 3 of our military transition series, Exiting the Military on Top. Today, we're going to talk about saving for transition. Now listen, this is something people don't like to talk about. You know, when you transition the military, you're thinking about all the paperwork you need to do to get out. You're thinking about moving all your stuff back home. You're thinking about going to school, getting a job. You have so many other things on your mind, and saving just slips through the cracks. And then you get out, and the day after you get out, you don't have a paycheck and you need money. And guess what? No money there. So I'm just gonna give you a couple of real quick pieces of advice. First of all, when you get out, understand you're gonna have a lot of unforeseen expenses. You know, rent is gonna be, for your first apartment, it's gonna be first month's rent, usually some sort of security deposit, and utilities have a deposit as well. So plan for between $3 and $4 grand just to get into your new apartment. Also think about, you know, don't make any big purchases right before transition. Get rid of all your unsecured debt. That means credit card debt, things like that. Get rid of that stuff. Hey, get rid of all the liabilities you can before you transition to set yourself up for success. And finally, hey, you know, when my wife and I transitioned, we just said, hey, we're gonna save 3 months of salary. That ended up being about 30 grand. And you know what? It seemed excessive at the time, but when we transitioned, and we even stayed in the same area, and we had between $6,000 and $8,000 of expenses that we had no idea that we were gonna incur. So thank goodness we saved. Listen, the hits are gonna come in transition, but don't worry. If you build yourself a cushion made of money, those hits are a lot softer. Now, before I let you go, I wanna read an email that I received from a young Marine that I used to work with. He kind of ran into some problems in transition. So I'm just gonna read you real quick this email that he wrote me, and hopefully you'll learn the lesson that he learned. He says, First Sergeant Wells, that was a long time ago. I wanted to check in with you and say thank you for the advice you gave me before I got out. You asked me my plan and what my backup plans were. If it wasn't for you always asking and having concern about me while I was one of your Marines, I might be living in my parents' house hoping for a job. I'm glad you were on me about saving money before I got out. It was roughly a month of job hunting and 2 months of working part-time, making minimum wage, just scraping by before I got this position. Had I not saved money, I would have been dead in the water with no roof over my head. I really appreciate all the times you told me I was going to be okay, and I had my plan, and you kept pushing me to make backup plans. Hey guys, if you can take anything from this today, it's this. Make backup plans, because you're going to need them. Hey, Semper Fidelis, talk to you around the bend.